Sentinel Online, now loading the Geekcast radio network of podcasts.
Hello and welcome to GCRN Wars Tournament 90s Villain Edition. I'm your host Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me in this adventure into the 90s is
Revolt Dan. How's it going?
Pretty good. And so I originally got this idea for this this tournament after we did the 80s villains a few years back. Seems like it's been a while now.
And that was I wasn't part of that, but I remember listening, and that was a lot of fun. So it's I think you and I both grew up more in the 90s and the 80s, so this is much more up my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was like, well, if we're gonna do a 90s one, I definitely want to build this one out. And I managed to double the contestants in this particular tournament because there's just so many memorable villains, and I know I'm forgetting some. But I tried to grab the most iconic and somewhat diverse of some of the characters.
Yeah, looking at the list, I think it's going to be it's a good group of random characters that I'm really interested in seeing. Just looking at the matchups, which I think will be fun, but just especially as it gets to the later rounds and you get some of these characters from all these different walks of entertainment from the 90s, that should be a lot of fun too. So,
yep, and I
think you got a good group here.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's a lot of Disney in there. There's a lot of other types of animation. There's a lot of stuff based off video games. There's a lot of stuff based off 80s properties that have been revived, or comics, or just a great deal of alternative villains than what we had in the 80s, which were kind of selected. So, yeah, we did the 80s one in 2013.
Man.
And we did the funny thing was we did the video game icons in 2014. And I've had this concept, and it's just not... It was kind of a magical timing of this actually coming to play at this point in time with the top 100 coming up.
Yeah, it seems it's great because it gives you a nice little preview, and we may be talking about these characters again, and it might actually, the winner of this it'll be a good thing to throw on the resume for the top 100 as well. Be like, yeah, I should definitely be higher because I won the Wars tournament. So
we'll be covering the first half of the tournament this week, and so I have a new voting setup for this tournament, which I hope to continue through future tournaments, and I think the listeners will have a lot of fun with it. It's very visual, but it allows them to have a head-to-head voting, and everything's all on one page, so it's not clickbait. So it should be a lot of fun. So I look forward to seeing what happens in the comments based on this episode. So without further ado, the first matchup is between Rhesus 2 and Professor James Moriarty. And for those that are not familiar, Rhesus 2 is from Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys, which was a very short-lived show. It only survived 26 episodes. So one of the it had a lot of iconic voice actors. You had James Avery, Jeff Bennett, Michael Dorn, Maurice LaMarche, and Malcolm McDowell. So, but I don't think it got as much love as it probably should have. But Rhesus 2 is an enforcer of the main villain. But the funny part is he's very he gets the ability to change his brain out to come up with more devious ideas.
Interesting.
So he constantly can swap between brain 1 and brain 2 to get better ideas to defeat Captain Simeon. Because Lord Nebula, his boss, is basically like Galactus in a sense. Wants to eat up the universe and make it one with him. So yeah, I felt that this was a very nice pairing between James Moriarty, who is also a very thoughtful strategist trying to defeat his nemesis, although this one takes place in the 22nd century.
I actually remember that cartoon. The first one I was not too well versed, but I feel like that came like near the like late 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember it having like, it was one of those shows that tried to experiment with like CGI animation and regular animation in like the early days. And they had Sherlock, of course, go to the future, but it was supposed to be like the Sherlock of the past. So
yeah, and they actually, funny enough, they took Sherlock Holmes' corpse and they had this technology where they could revive someone and give them back their like a cellular rejuvenation technique. And so they brought Holmes back, and it was to combat James Moriarty, who was also brought back. So it was a very fun show. It did come out in '99. And it also lasted about 2 seasons, 26 episodes. And the fun thing for me is that this one has voice actors from Beast Wars, which seems to be a trend amongst some of the villains today.
Yeah.
So, but no, I felt that these two, and the funny thing is Richard Newman is Moriarty here, who plays Rhinox and Tankor in Beast Wars Beast Machines. And he's also going to be playing a villain later on in this side of the bracket. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, I think like just based upon reputation and notoriety that you'd have to lean towards Moriarty in this. Just be, the guy's going toe to toe with Sherlock Holmes, who was basically, Batman's very much modeled after in some way. So I think, he's not maybe the most physical presence in the world, but he certainly is a thinker, as you said. So I would just think he would be a pretty formidable foe on that end.
And I would think that I think I agree with you in this sense, which hopefully in future episodes we have more co-hosts to kind of have differing opinions on some things, because there may be some instances like this where we completely agree. But it'll ultimately come down to you, the listener. But I have to agree that Moriarty, because not only for the fact that he basically fought a 19th century or early 20th century version of Batman in a sense, but they revived him to come back to the 22nd century to cause havoc, which then caused the Scotland Yard of the 22nd century to bring back Sherlock Holmes. So I feel like that would win this bracket, this particular section. I think that Moriarty would take it, because he only needs one
I'd be
brain.
Interested. He does. He only needs one brain, like us all. But yeah.
So, moving on to bracket battle number 2, we have the Mandarin from Iron Man, the animated series, against Leader from the Incredible Hulk animated series.
Interesting. So, two villains known for two different things, for two different ways of going about it, for sure. You know, the Leader, of course, being Hulk's villain, known for his enormous forehead and brain, and Mandarin with his magical rings and his heat of technology. So they actually kind of, I think, even though they're both villains, I don't think they would get along very well.
No, and it's kind of interesting because I would almost wonder who would take it, because they're both kind of conniving and very much like to be top dog. And they're both green.
Yeah, very true. I think I would lean towards Mandarin, I think, just because I think the Leader is a stupid character. That doesn't help it much. No, just compared to just in the comics, he's never one of my favorites. But the Mandarin's rings are not to be messed with. Like they all end up, they're almost like, you know, a good comparison would be the Infinity Gems are not necessarily the same power level, but they have certainly a lot of strength to them. And I think that is something, you know, the Leader's not one to like take someone on one-on-one. He's one more to, you know, utilize others or create other creations and things like that. So where I think the Mandarin does that as well, but I think he's got a little bit, he's willing to get his hands dirty a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you on that, and there's not really much else I could add to it, but I think that in most of what Leader was known for in the animated series was, and nobody messes with Leader, you know, and just kind of refers to himself, and he's sitting there just in his little safety net throne room, not really going outside, but he's running his machinations from in there, so... I think that if the Mandarin would get past Leader's defenses, it would be game over.
Yeah.
This next battle would be pretty fun. You have Dark Phoenix from X-Men the Animated Series with Skeletor from the New Adventures of He-Man. And this is Skeletor's... revival from the 80s. So
interesting. I'd be curious because you, I think, know more about He-Man than I do. So who would you lean towards in this matchup?
It would be Dark Phoenix. She's got mutant power. She's got you know, the Phoenix power. She's a force to be reckoned with, you know, the X-Men alone. Whereas Skeletor was trying to escape He-Man, and so he goes to this other world, in essence, to escape, in a sense, and runs into these evil mutants of Denebria, which Flog is the military commander there. And somehow, I saw this movie a long time ago, but he accidentally gets brought to Primus, Skeletor does, and forms an alliance with them. And then the thing is Flog is to help Skeletor destroy He-Man. And He-Man, of course, has to leave Eternia to go to Primus to fight the evil mutants and Skeletor. And Skeletor gets a makeover in this new, basically, battle armor.
Interesting.
So it was interesting when I saw the animated movie thing of it, which was basically the first 3 episodes. But when I was a kid and I had the VHS and watched it a lot, but I think that Phoenix would take it in this fight.
I would say the one chance he would have is Phoenix is mentally unstable, Dark Phoenix for sure. So if he was able to somehow be conniving, and because, you know, Jean Grey, who becomes Dark Phoenix, became that because of what Mastermind did, and was able to kind of trick her, and I don't think he necessarily has the telepathy or anything of that nature, but um, I think he may be able to use herself against her. Like she can be very self-destructive, but that would probably be the only possible avenue because, yeah, if there's so far, I would say the Phoenix would probably be my pick to win it because Dark Phoenix is one of the most powerful entities in all of Marvel comics. So it's tough to mess with. It's not infallible. I mean, it's the X-Men were able to obviously defeat Dark Phoenix and things like that. So, but one-on-one, she's a tough matchup. So.
Yeah, she's going to be a tough matchup, I think, in this side of the bracket, at least for sheer power. At least so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, Skeletor, the only way I could see him winning is if he, like you said, kind of schemed around her and had a backup plan to take her out.
Yeah.
So, and then of course he has the power of magic. So he could do some damage.
True.
With his band of mutants. So the other nice thing about He-Man, the New Adventures, is most of the voice cast are Beast Wars cast again. Literally,
they did every show in the 90s.
They were pretty popular in the 90s. They're in a lot of the shows that we're going to be covering villains from.
Nice.
So yeah, the next battle is the High Evolutionary from Spider-Man Unlimited and Dr. Luther Paradigm from Street Sharks.
Man, I miss Street Sharks. I loved Street Sharks as a kid. I don't know what. There's something about people as sharks just really, it struck a chord with me.
It was like Ninja Turtles, but with sharks.
You know what? That's exactly it. Instead of being like ninjas, they were just like brutes.
They were just surfer dudes that were sharks.
Yeah.
And Paradigm kind of looks like if you mix Serpentor and Dr. Mindbender, you get him.
Yeah. It almost looks like a little bit like a character from Image in Spawn called Avert Kill, who was kind of bald with big shoulders and stuff like that. A very common look in the 90s. So.
But yeah, the High Evolutionary. See, this series only got one season for Spider-Man Unlimited because it was so bad. That was Marvel's antidote for Batman Beyond. So, but yeah, the High Evolutionary was disgusted with behavior of human on Earth and believed that a greater genetic diversity heightened survival traits. So he left Earth to counter Earth and created human-animal hybrids. So, yeah. It's...
There's like... I don't remember the show. There's actually another High Evolutionary character, too, like that's more of an Avengers villain. So I don't know if that was a different take on that same character.
It might have been.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So you have two mad scientists basically who like animal splicing. So they actually be in the same like villain club. There's a good chance they hang out.
Yeah. And it turns out that the High Evolutionary was in Thor.
Yeah.
In the Thor comics. They just repurposed him for this. But yeah, in Paradigm, the only thing I could see going wrong is the High Evolutionary is calm and collected. And Paradigm's kind of manic. Because he mixed his DNA with that of a piranha. And so they named him Dr. Paranoid later on. But yeah, his mutation doesn't cause a dramatic increase in mass, but he changes under stress, like the Hulk.
Interesting.
So
yeah. The High Evolutionary is a tough because like he's kind of a aloof's not the word, but almost elitist in a way. Like I wondered if he would just like he would see this dude who's a piranha and like crazy, and just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go about my merry way. Rather than facing him one on one. So I don't know. This one's I'm not really. I feel like this could like end in a draw in a way, but I'd probably go High Evolutionary just because I think he probably, like you mentioned, has less of a. He won't let his temper get in his way, and he's a little bit more self-sufficient in that way, rather than being self-destructive as those 90 villains tend to be.
Yeah, and that's kind of how most of the 90s villains were. They were either calm and collected or psychotic. And in this instance, you get one of each. So
yeah,
I think High Evolutionary, but it would probably depend on how much Paradigm flipped out.
Yeah.
So
you go full Hulk rage, and that could carry over.
Yeah, it could. So the next battle is Negaduck from Darkwing Duck and Don Carnage from Tailspin.
Brings me back to the greatness of Disney Afternoon. This is an interesting matchup because, you basically have, Darkwing Duck was like the Disney version is kind of Batman in a way, and he's an interesting character because but then you have a or a sky pirate, so it's like who wins in this?
Yeah, that's kind of a hard decision there because they're both notorious and they're both scheming, so I don't know. With Negaduck, you would have gadgets and some of that, but Pirate would have henchmen and not be flying solo.
Yeah, I always feel like when in doubt, go Pirate, because he's got I think a little bit more physical skills. And Megaduck's a little bit, he's a you have basically a duck versus a fox, and usually in that battle, foxes went out. So I think physical strength would probably be on his side as well. So I don't know. But you said gadgets can always even the technology end, over a guy who, I guess he has his ship and whatnot, but I don't know.
I think in this instance I'm going Negaduck, but that's just because it's like it's almost like reverse Flash to Flash, or
does he also go back in time all the time?
Yeah, I don't think that's allowed. It's Disney. They just roll with the punches.
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna go Pirate just because it's you can never trust a pirate, and they always find a way, as Jack Sparrow often does. So I'll go inspired by that. I'm gonna go with them.
That's a good point to make. Go with Jack Sparrow when all else fails. The next battle is Dirt Cat from SWAT Cats and Lord Dragonus from Mighty Ducks. Two crazy looking creatures. And Dirt Cat is the main villain of SWAT Cats. He's a very smart and dangerous crime lord, but looks like a demon. And he's a tactician scientist. And then you get Lord Dragonus, who is the leader of the Saurians and the main very powerful alien. So
yeah,
you got brute force and intelligence.
The Mighty Ducks cartoon was interesting. It was a concept I'm surprised they got off the ground. It's like, yeah, they're alien ducks from another planet that come and play hockey, and somehow they made a TV show. This one is a challenge, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I like them both, but I'm more partial to Dark Cat because he had the ability to sway all of the other villains in... He was very independent, but he had the ability to sway the other villains in Mega Cat City and SWAT Cats, such as Dr. Viper, which was voiced by Frank Welker, and then the Metallicats, who were basically like a SWAT Cats version of if you took Android 18 and 17 and gave them the appearance and ability of Ultron.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like he worked with them a lot. So, and he also knew who the SWAT Cats were. Whereas like Dragonus is kind of a brute from another world that's coming to Earth for, to fight the Ducks and get his dark magic working again. So I don't know, it's kind of a toss up. And then you get Tim Curry voicing Lord Dragonus.
See, that's having Curry's voice behind your character, I think gives you extra points for sure. So that fact alone makes me want to go with Dragonus. But I think I'm going to go with when you can take out the SWAT Cats like that, and they have that one of the best like plane vehicles in any cartoon ever. I think I'm gonna go with you. Plus, he looks just majorly badass. So they both kind of do, but I feel like I enjoy his design a little bit more. So technically, that does nothing in a battle, but just because I'm gonna go for him, but I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah, Dark Cat, the other nice thing is he kind of reminds me of a cross between Dr. Claw and Dr. Doom. In like some of his like bulky kind of crime lord thing, and then he's got the kind of scary scientist tactician thing of Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
So
his design reminds me a lot of a character called Taskmaster in a way. His face is almost skull-like.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Dark Cat, despite the fact that Tim Curry is voicing Dragonus. So going to the next battle, we're starting with a Tim Curry villain. We're getting Skullmaster versus Hades. And Skullmaster's from Mighty Max and Hades from Hercules. And Skullmaster is the main antagonist of the Mighty Max series. Uncompromising, loathsome, treacherous, relentless, just downright cruel and sinister villain. And the way that Tim Curry portrays this character is just disturbing.
Where you have James Woods doing Hades, which is much more, comedic, of course. So I think if you're going off sheer power, my guess, Hades being a Greek god probably would have possibly more, but he's also kind of an idiot in a way. Like, I guess, he is Hades. He certainly he's not without his. Without his strengths in his ability to be conniving, but I think too sometimes his arrogance and just like I don't think he's nearly as serious. So I think that could he might not take it serious enough, and that ends up kind of being his downfall. So that would be like I think the one thing, even though he probably is much more powered, I would possibly.
See, Hades, I could see in a sense winning only for the fact that he can't die. But
that is also that's a good point.
But he could have what happened to him in the movie happen to him, to where he's out of commission for a while.
Yeah.
Because of his arrogance, and Skullmaster has he's an ancient warrior sorcerer whose power has driven him to destroy like the Atlanteans, and he wants possession of these crystal of souls, these soul crystals, and so he's imprisoned deep within the earth, but he can occasionally get out in a sense. And funny enough, Frank Welker's the other counter villain in this series, Lava Lord, who's down there. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Tim Curry and Skullmaster, just because he's very cold and calculating, and he's constantly got. I mean, it took Mighty Max and his crew to go through portals constantly just to get away from Skullmaster and clean up the mess that was put out there by him.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think ultimately though, I think I'm gonna go with Hades, just because I don't know, you don't really want to mess with the Greek god. You know, he's able to kind of take on Zeus and all. He obviously he can. He utilized the Titans in the film as well. I don't know if that's an option on the board, but you know, I think Hades is a character that certainly is not to be underestimated. So I think just he seems to be always one step ahead, even if he might be a little bit sardonic. So
yeah, and he's got the Fates too, and he's got, you know, the Titans. So I mean, I guess he does have his own kind of crystal ball and army as well. So
yeah,
I think that those two would go pretty much toe to toe.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see who wins though in the tournament.
Yeah, because it's also often what we see is, you know, popularity, what character you like the most, but try to think of it more so if you know, outside of that. So I'd be interested to see.
Well, I would be interested in hope that everybody votes, in the sense that, you know, if you were watching a, you know, like a sports tournament or something, who would you want, you know, who would you think would win, you know?
Like Ultimate, if they were all like an Ultimate Fighting Octagon or something like that.
Yeah. So next up is Scarab from Mummies Alive against Jafar in Aladdin, and they both have a snake scepter. They both have a very similar garb, and the whole outfit, and yeah, they're just very similar in many ways. Scarab was the royal advisor and regent to Amenhotep and Prince Rapses in the show, and so he's of course trying to steal the prince's life force again, because the prince is reincarnated, which is why he's got mummy bodyguards. And then of course Jafar wants unlimited power, and everybody knows everything about Jafar.
In an itty-bitty living space. I'm assuming we're going with Jafar before he becomes a genie, like, cause just normal Jafar.
Yeah, just normal Jafar.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go Jafar just because Aladdin's probably my all-time favorite Disney movie.
Yep, me too.
And and he kind of, you know, he's one of those Disney villains, I think, that gets closest to succeeding more so than anyone else. It helps that, like, the Sultan's kind of a buffoon and whatnot, but you know, he has some of his tricks. I think he obviously is a scepter, he can do mind control and things like that, but I don't think necessarily he has like the power of the Scarab that you mentioned. Like I feel like he has kind of parlor tricks, and that's why he's trying to get the lamp. Where, you know, if he was going against a more powerful sorcerer, I don't think he would be able to hold his own. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I think in this instance, even though I want to vote Jafar, I think that Scarab would take it, just because he's got all of the power of the undead and the ability to transform like the mummies to battle. and he's got a lot of magic. So I don't know. I would love to vote Jafar, but I don't think he could physically take this guy on.
Yeah, I mean, he could seek Iago after him, but maybe he can he'll just annoy him to death. That's always an option. But yeah, I think my guess is Jafar is going to win because he's far more popular, which I'd be fine with. Plus, it'd be interesting because if Jafar wins and Hades wins, we'd get a Disney villain showdown. So there's always that option.
It'd be interesting though.
Yeah.
Because then you could get, Don Carnage, and then you could get Lord Dragonus and Dark Phoenix, and, because Marvel is, but sure. Disney would own half the characters on this board anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, it helps that they had, the best cartoons in the 90s, so.
And so second to the last battle for this episode is between Lawrence Limburger from Biker Mice from Mars and Bloth from the Pirates of Darkwater. Both shows I've seen enough of to know a little bit about, but not... I wasn't a full-on watcher of them like I was in most of the other series we've covered.
Yeah, I did watch both. I don't know. I had a few Biker Mice from Mars toys, and it was fine. I wasn't the biggest fan of it per se. I think I would watch it sometimes when I wake up for school. But again, I feel like you basically have kind of your corporate stooge versus a pirate. And again, I'm going to go with pirate because pirates find a way. They're like dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, in Lawrence Limburger is an alien who's solely concentrating on conquering other planets, strip mining them for their natural resources, and moving on to the next planet. And he tried to conquer planet Mars, and that's when the Biker Mice got him. So he came to Earth. So he's still a loser. And then you get Bloth, who's... has an intense love of treasure and gold and watching opponents squirm, and he's a pirate sea lord who's ageless, and so I think I'm gonna go Bloth in this round just because crazy pirate with the power of the sea and the dark water.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that's kind of a no contest to me in this one, but never know. And then the final battle of the night is between Apocalypse from X-Men and Lord Zedd from Power Rangers. I had to throw in the one live action because I did say 90s villains. I didn't say animated, so it gave me that out. And he was pretty much the most iconic villain we got in the 90s.
From live action, I would say it's certainly... I think... I mean, I guess you can argue Rita, but I think he's much more powerful character, badass, I would say.
Yeah, he's much more awesome looking, sounding, and just the chrome and the brain exposed, and just the overall look of him is just intense. So you get Lord Zedd, the kind of dark energy powered magic thrower, sorcerer in a sense, against a mutant with just crazy amounts of power.
Yeah, Apocalypse is interesting because even his power set is so... It's kind of ill-defined in the show and in the comics. He can manipulate his size. He has morphing capabilities. He has celestial armor, which certainly kind of makes it difficult to really have any effect. He can be immortal in a way. He has the ability basically to regenerate himself. So he's really difficult to kill. You kind of have to find the right time and place to really even have a shot because of just how powerful a character he is. being the first mutant and everything like that. So it's it's interesting. It'd be cool to see, a gigantic Zedd fighting a gigantic Apocalypse. Like that would be a fun battle to witness. So, Zedd has magic though, so that's one thing I think that Apocalypse has not really gone up against per se. He's in the comics at least he's fought like Thor and he's had trouble and stuff like that. So that might be a weakness that could be exploited. But I just think that Apocalypse power set is just so enormous, and like I said, he's so difficult to kill, and he has future technology. He actually even has a time machine at times. So I think he would just, Zedd has trouble with the Power Rangers, where, so I think he wouldn't really be able to stop Apocalypse.
Yeah, I don't think that he would be able to stop Apocalypse, despite the fact that, he looks cool and he's a sorcerer. But yeah, Apocalypse is pretty much this undying original mutant that's survived millennia and just constantly rebirths. And so he's got superhuman strength, stamina, invulnerability, flight, teleportation, biomolecular alteration, size alteration, transmutation, energy generation, telekinesis, immortality. So, yeah, it would be very difficult for Zedd to win, and Serpentera would not help.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like both of these characters as villains, and so that's Apocalypse was one of my all-time favorite characters. I have a gigantic Apocalypse toy on my desk right now, but so maybe I'm biased. I'll say that, but I just like I said, Apocalypse is the big bad, one of the biggest bads of X-Men and Marvel per se. So and maybe Zedd has some powers that we're just not really seeing. But like I'm thinking of like the movie when he kind of brought down the sides by Ooze. So I would think that Apocalypse would do something similar.
Yeah, I kind of think that would happen in that instance as well. But yeah, Zedd is considered one of the greatest villains of Power Rangers history. So because he's the Emperor of Evil. Which doesn't mean anything if you're going against a mutant that's lived with immortality.
Yeah.
So
true. Yeah, true.
So yeah.
But I would be interested to see what people think though, because I know a lot of people who love the Power Rangers, who love Zedd as a character. Apocalypse, I think there's people who really like him as a character, but his movie wasn't very good. So I wonder if that'll sway people to go more towards Zedd. So I could see a really potential upset, at least based upon our thoughts with this round.
Yep, I would definitely be interested in hearing what everyone has to say about all of this as we come into the voting round, and of course we'll in the next episode reveal who won this side of the bracket, and kind of go down the round part two of round one with the second side of the bracket of characters, which you'll get some more kind of video game comic-y and other characters of that nature battling each other. So some of them I was surprised were actually 90s. So I thought that they were borderline.
Yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to that because there's a lot of cool characters that are really yet to come from some really noticeable TV shows. And I think, like we talked about Phoenix, I think there's a couple people on the other side of the bracket that might have a shot of taking her down if she makes it all the way through. So it's a good balanced board as you want to see. Oh, and let's just say we'll talk about it next week, but matchup number 15, that might be the best matchup of all. that we get at least in the first round. So
I know it's funny because Blanchard was like, you should have used this other character to go against him because he voiced them both. And I was like, that's not a good enough reason. I'm like, you have to put the craziest, ones kind of amongst each other, so.
Yeah.
Or the ones with the most similarities, I should say.
I think you made the right choice. So.
Yeah, so. Should be fun. I tried to pair them as well as I could to their physical attributes so that it wouldn't be a popularity contest, at least in the first round. Well, it might be, but...
It always is, but that's unavoidable. But I think that's where the comments come in, where people can kind of rally support for their different sides based upon the good arguments. I think we've seen that in the past, and so it's a good opportunity to do that.
So, yeah. So until next time, check out the post on geekcastradio.com and leave your comments. Leave your thoughts on who you think should win and who you think could take it all the way. And be sure to vote. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In any case, see you out there.